In the early 1800s, the land that would become Oklahoma was not planned as a state. It was a crossroads for many displaced nations, a place where cultures met and borders often shifted. Later, the discovery of oil brought rapid change. Towns appeared almost overnight, and fortunes rose and fell just as quickly. Many thought the land would not endure, yet it did. Today, traces of every era remain across these plains. In Ingles, the wooden fronts of an old outlaw town still stand where one of the last frontier gunfights took place. At Turner Falls, water cuts through billion-year-old rock, revealing layers shaped by an ancient sea that once covered the region. And in Picher, an entire city lies abandoned. A reminder of how the same minerals that built it also brought its decline. Stay with me as we uncover Oklahoma's most extraordinary wonders, where rare discoveries and forgotten mysteries might change the way you see this state forever. Grand Lake of the Cherokees formed after a huge dam was built across the Grand River, causing the valley behind it to fill with water. Before the lake took over, workers moved hundreds of Cherokee graves, though some are still believed to rest beneath the surface today. During World War II, this peaceful fishing spot became an important military resource when the government took the dam and used its electricity to power war factories. Over time, a fisherman once pulled a massive carp from these waters, so huge it broke the state record and became a local legend. Darker stories tell of the Oklahoma octopus, a horse-sized creature that pulls swimmers under, though no octopus could live in these freshwaters. Along these shores and marshes, black-crowned night herons stand in the shadows and hunt fish that move near the surface after dark. Their red eyes act like built-in night vision goggles that gather light when other birds are completely blind. Using this advantage, they grab the prey with their thick bills, instead of stabbing like most herons do. They shake it until it stops moving, then swallow it whole. Sometimes they even lure prey closer with a trick called bill vibrating, dipping their beaks into the water and snapping them rapidly to create ripples that attract curious fish. When prey gets close, they can walk, hop, fly, swim, or even dive headfirst into the water to catch it. During mating season, something wild happens to their bodies. Their yellow legs turn bright pink, and the skin around their eyes glows electric blue for a short time. When daylight comes, the yellow-headed blackbird appears, filling the air with its noisy calls. Described as sounding like rusty metal hinges scraping open, their noise echoes far across the marsh. Males have black bodies and look like they dipped their entire heads in bright yellow paint, while females wear dull brownish feathers with just a hint of yellow. They use clever tricks to find food, pushing their beaks into the ground or rotting wood and prying it open like a crowbar to reach hidden insects and seeds. Breaking the dark tones of the marsh, a gentle shade of pink appears in the water, the Roseate spoonbill. Arriving in the area as rare visitors, these birds come after a successful breeding season to explore new habitats and search for food. Their distinctive pink colour comes from carotenoid pigments in shrimp, crabs and other small prey. The more protein-rich food they eat, the brighter their feathers become. Unlike herons that curl their necks in an S shape while flying, these birds keep their necks straight and often glide in diagonal lines. To find their meals, they rely entirely on touch, sweeping their spoon-shaped bills through the water like metal detectors. When something moves, they snap their bills shut so quickly that the prey barely has a chance to escape. Roseate spoonbills stay nearly silent while feeding, rarely making any noise except for low guttural sounds when disturbed. Interestingly, a group of them is called a bowl, a fitting name since their pink bills look like floating spoons skimming the water's surface. The holy city of the Wichitas sits in the middle of a wildlife refuge featuring granite buildings designed to resemble biblical Jerusalem. Constructed during the Great Depression, the stone village was meant to serve as a permanent stage for Easter plays, a tradition that continues to this day. Inside, one chapel holds a stone from the actual Mount of Olives, and its ceilings are covered with murals of angels and saints. Strangely enough, when a massive wildfire swept through the area, the flames left every stone structure completely untouched, as if something were protecting the buildings. Despite its history, the site is full of legends, from unexplained sightings to haunted murals, which attract visitors and pilgrims alike. Just beyond the protected structures, hundreds of bison roam the area. Before their near extinction, 15 bison were reintroduced to Wichita Mountain's Wildlife Refuge to help save the species. At the time, the area represented a strategic location to help restore these animals to their natural ecosystem. These massive animals have thick, shaggy fur covering their heads, necks and shoulders, while their back ends remain almost bare. Despite weighing as much as a small car, bison can sprint faster than racehorses and jump higher than most people. During mating season, males bash their heads against each other to compete for mating rights. Newborns are reddish-brown rather than dark like their parents, then slowly change colour over several months. Remarkably, these grass eaters have survived ice ages, massive droughts and wildfires that would kill most other animals, bouncing back every time. Meanwhile, as bison graze above the ground, prairie dogs burrow beneath their hooves. Named for their distinctive bark-like warning calls, these rodents have one of the most complex languages in the animal kingdom. Their calls don't just signal danger, they convey detailed information about whether a coyote, hawk or human is approaching, how fast it's moving, and even the colour of a person's shirt. When one of them spots danger, the alarm spreads across the entire colony in seconds. Chubby and round, prairie dogs resemble inflated squirrels with tiny round ears, short tails, and front teeth that never stop growing. They eat grasses, seeds, and roots all day, and they also clip tall plants around their burrow to keep an eye out for any sneaky predators. In fact, their burrows can stretch bigger than multiple football fields, with separate rooms for sleeping, raising babies, and even bathrooms. Family members greet each other by touching their front teeth together, similar to a kiss, but this ritual never extends to neighbours from other families. Located in the Washita Mountains, Beaver's Bend State Park lies among rocks that tilt at strange angles. Along its trails, forests are full of wildlife, and seasonal hunts attract people searching for creatures they believe exist but can never prove. Though the river gets its name from the sharp curve that looks like a beaver's tail, the beavers have truly claimed the bends as their own. A beaver's most important adaptation is its orange front teeth, which never stop growing. The iron in their teeth keeps them strong as they chew through trees. Beavers eat soft plants like grass and leaves in spring and summer, and switch to tree bark and the sweet inside part called cambium in fall and winter. As it turns out, they are amazing engineers. They build dams that flood sections of the river, turning fast-flowing streams into calm ponds where they can swim safely away from bears and coyotes. Their families stick together like roommates who never move out. Parents, babies, and last year's kids all living in the same lodge. While beavers shape the waterways below, other birds take advantage of the calm ponds above, like the colourful purple gallinule. These birds have remarkably super long toes that let them walk on lily pads without falling through. Babies are born with tiny claws on their wings that help them climb up plants before they learn to fly, kind of like having extra hands. When one parent sits on the eggs, the other bird brings a leaf and adds it to the nest. Older brothers and sisters from last year stick around to help feed the new babies, and sometimes a family can have 8 helpers, all working together. Some of them get really lost during travel time and end up in strange places like oil rigs, out in the ocean, or even show up in yards way up north. Their feet are bright yellow, and they use their toes to grab food. They can walk on floating plants, swim underwater, and even climb trees while looking for food, switching between all these moves like an athlete. Ingles appeared overnight when people raced to grab pieces of land. Bank robbers hung out in the town's bar for weeks, and nobody turned them in because they bought lots of drinks and spent their stolen money there. Lawmen dressed up like farmers and hid in covered wagons to sneak into town. Then a massive shootout happened that killed more people in the famous Battle of Ingles. That caused the locals to move away. They took their wooden houses apart piece by piece and carried the boards with them because lumber cost too much to leave behind. The new roads got built far away from town, so Ingles ended up completely alone, with nobody driving past anymore. Turner Falls, Oklahoma's tallest waterfall, slowly grows taller as water deposits minerals that stack up like dripping candle wax instead of wearing it away. The site operated as a recreational area since the 1800s and still draws visitors year-round to its natural swimming pools, hiking trails through geological formations. Above everything, small falcons called American kestrels sit on high spots and wires, watching the cliffs and woods below. As the smallest falcon in all of North America, they are about the same size as a dove, but hunt like fierce predators. By using their ability to see ultraviolet light, these little birds can spot mouse pea glowing like a neon sign. This allows them to pinpoint exactly where their prey is hiding, which gives them a major advantage while hunting. In addition, their beaks have a special notch, shaped like a little tooth, that snaps their prey's neck in one quick bite. They have 2 black spots on the back of their heads that look like eyes, which scare bigger hawks away. For times when food is scarce, they store extra meals in hiding spots like tree holes. Their territory includes the cliffs around a mysterious stone castle that stands abandoned and crumbling. Collings Castle, once a private lodge, was made from rocks found nearby and stacked like building blocks to create a real castle next to a waterfall. Because moving rocks uphill was expensive, the owner made the doorways and ceilings extremely low. This caused structural problems and forced even regular-sized people to duck to walk through. As a result, everyone who bought the castle after the original owner eventually went broke trying to fix it, as if the building were cursed. Adding to the mystery, people say ghosts walk through the empty rooms, and visitors have taken photos showing strange shadows and shapes that nobody can explain. While the castle sits frozen in decay, life continues in the skies above, where scissor-tailed flycatchers perform aerial acrobatics. Living in open areas with scattered trees, they use wires and fence posts like lookout towers to spot prey flying below. After eating bugs with hard shells, they can't digest the wings and legs, so they spit out small pellets of the leftover parts. Their tail feathers are twice as long as their body and move like scissors when they fly, while bright red patches under their wings flash like secret signals to scare other birds. Picher appeared almost overnight when miners discovered lead and zinc in the ground, and at its peak, more people lived there than in many small cities today. The mining companies dug up huge amounts of rock, but kept only a little, piling the rest into big grey mountains around town where kids played, not knowing the rock was poisonous. As a result, more than a third of the children living there had too much lead in their bodies, which affected their brains and made it harder for them to learn. Experts later checked the ground under the buildings and found that almost anything could fall into the empty tunnels below without warning. Then a huge tornado smashed through the town, destroying a big part of it and finally convincing most of the last residents to leave. Now the entire town stands empty, with crumbling buildings, grey mountains of mining waste, and signs warning that just breathing the air can put poison in your body. Chickasaw National Recreation Area sits right where forests meet prairies, So oak trees and cactus plants grow side by side, like two different worlds meeting in one place. Cool, clear water flows out from underground every day, creating waterfalls and swimming spots that stay refreshing, even in the summer heat. However, the spring smells like rotten eggs because of sulphur in the ground, and for centuries, people thought the water could heal them, but it often made them sick instead. Still, much of what looks natural today was actually made by workers during hard times. They planted thousands of trees and built waterfalls by hand using just shovels and stones. Among the shallow waters and open shores, a small bird called the killdeer makes its home. They prefer open areas where hiding is impossible and use their broad sightlines and clever tactics to turn this into an advantage. Easily recognised by the two black rings around its neck like double necklaces, it stands out among other shorebirds. Instead of building nests in trees or bushes, it lays its spotted eggs directly on bare gravel or dirt, relying on camouflage to stay hidden, even in plain sight. And if danger comes too close, the parent bird pretends to be hurt, dragging one wing and letting out distress sounds to lure predators away from its nest. These loud, high-pitched cries are part of why killdeer are known as some of the noisiest birds around. Up in the trees, northern mockingbirds listen closely and copy those same calls. At first, they look like plain grey birds with white on their wings, but when they fly, those markings are seen like bright signals from afar. They can learn and remember over 200 different sounds, copying not just other birds, but also things like car alarms, barking dogs, and even violins. Because of this, the more songs a male knows, the more it shows the females that he's smart, alert, and familiar with the neighbourhood, which makes him a good parent. One clever mockingbird even learned to copy a hawk's hunting call, using it to scare all the other birds away from a feeder before eating all the food alone. Their diet consists of bugs in the summer and switches to berries in the winter to survive. While hunting on the ground, they open their wings in quick, jerky moves that scientists still can't fully explain. And perhaps most surprisingly, they can recognise human faces and remember who has bothered them before, and they keep grudges even after days or weeks. Texola is located right on the border between Oklahoma and Texas, and because that line kept shifting, people in the same house could wake up in different states without ever moving. This happened because the border wasn't a straight line, and each new survey placed it in a slightly different spot. Later, the town began to decline when Route 66 bypassed it, causing businesses to close and most residents to leave, eventually turning it into the ghost town it is today. There's a tiny one-room jail in town with displays about famous outlaws, but none of those criminals were ever locked up there. One restaurant still serves food in a building made partly from wood taken from other abandoned buildings around town. Most buildings sit abandoned with broken windows and belongings still inside, looking like everyone just walked out one day and never came back. The few people still living there are surrounded by far more empty buildings than homes with residents. The Great Salt Plains is a huge flat area where the ground looks completely white like snow, but the colour comes from the salt left behind by an ocean that once covered the land long ago. Underneath, unique hourglass-shaped selenite crystals grow, found nowhere else on Earth. The salt flats attract more than just visitors. Each spring, American Avocets arrive in the area. They come from distant beaches and coastlines to nest directly on the bare salt. During this season, they wear a rusty orange head and neck that fades to white and grey when it's over. In addition, they have long blue legs that let them wade into deeper waters, and their bills curve upward like a smile. When hunting for food, they swing their partly open bills back and forth, underwater to detect tiny shrimps and water bugs, instead of looking for them. If a predator gets near their nest, the parent birds work together to attack it repeatedly and scream to scare it away. Finally, after their babies grow up, they return to warm coastal beaches to find food and safe places to live away from the frozen saltwaters in winter. Fort Gibson is located right where 3 different rivers meet, which gave soldiers total control over water travel in the area. It was built to keep peace between different groups who were fighting over the territory. On top of that, the fort sat at the end of the Trail of Tears path, where thousands of relocated families first arrived, after being forced from their homes far away. At its peak, it was so important that it had more soldiers stationed here than any other military base, and many future famous generals and leaders trained there. However, the fort was eventually abandoned because of issues like liquor and brothels. Later, Cherokee people took it over and gave it a new name, but soldiers returned during the war and renamed it once more. Nearby in the cemetery, there is a grave with only a woman's name and death date, and legend says she dressed as a male soldier, followed her cheating boyfriend to the fort, shot him, and then froze to death crying on his grave. Natural Falls State Park, once called Dripping Springs, has a waterfall that drops through a narrow V-shaped canyon and is tied with Turner Falls as the tallest waterfall in the state. Tied with Turner Falls as the tallest in Oklahoma, the drop is so high that the water cools by 10 degrees before it reaches the bottom. Not far away from the mist, American white pelicans land on nearby lakes during their long migrations. They are among the largest birds in the area, with wings that stretch almost as wide as a small car. Their bodies are completely white, except for black feathers at the tips of their wings that only show when they fly. During mating season, males grow a strange flat horn on top of their bills that looks like a shark fin and falls off afterward. Unlike other pelicans, they do not dive for fish, but swim in groups and drive their food into shallow spots where they scoop them up at once. Their bill pouch can hold up to 3 gallons of water, and the air sacs inside their bones and under their skin act like built-in life jackets, allowing them to float so well that they cannot sink. Sharing these quiet waters are red-eared sliders, who climb onto logs and rocks to warm their shells in the sun. They get their name from the red stripe behind their eyes and their habit of sliding quickly into the water when scared. Known for their bright green shells with yellow stripes and red patches behind their eyes, they gradually darken and fade as they age. When looking for food, they stay perfectly still among the plants or on the muddy bottom, then suddenly lunge and open their mouths to scoop up both water and prey. Young turtles eat mostly insects, small fish, and worms to grow quickly, but as they get older they eat mostly plants and algae. Because they can only eat underwater, they tear food into chunks with sharp jaws and swallow everything while submerged. During courtship, male turtles tap the female's face with their front claws until she agrees to mate. After that, she crawls onto land, digs a nest, buries her eggs, and leaves without coming back. Nearby, the land is home to another master of stealth and patience, the praying mantis. Amazingly, they are the only insects with 3D vision, which helps them judge the exact distance to their prey before attacking. They can also turn their heads all the way around like an owl, allowing them to look behind without moving their body. By staying very still, they catch prey and eat the head first to stop it from fighting, then chew through the rest like a crunchy snack. Their spiked front legs unfold and grab prey faster than the blink of an eye. Sometimes females bite off the male's head during mating, a behaviour that lets her get extra nutrients while the act continues. Able to hear bats hunting with echolocation, these insects quickly drop or spin through the air to escape them. Baby mantises that hatch together will start eating each other right away if they don't spread out immediately, so they shoot silk threads into the wind and float away like tiny parachutes. Tulsa got its name from a Creek Indian word that means old town. To honor the village they had to leave behind on the Trail of Tears. The city sits on land belonging to 3 different Native American nations, who all maintain their headquarters in the area. Downtown, there is a place called the Center of the Universe, where if you stand in a small circle and talk, your voice echoes back loudly, but people standing nearby can hardly hear it. A pond at Owen Park was once a crater from a chemical explosion that destroyed everything around it and took a man's life. Later, the crater filled with water and became the city's first swimming spot. Underground tunnels beneath downtown were built to connect buildings, but legends say gangsters used them to smuggle illegal alcohol and hide from police during Prohibition. Back then, Tulsa had so many wealthy oil barons that the city was officially named America's Most Beautiful City, because they spent huge amounts of money decorating it. Among all the fancy buildings, the Boston Avenue Methodist Church stands out, looking completely different from anything else in the city. The church was built to showcase Tulsa's new oil wealth, with modern materials like metal and glass and geometric patterns inspired by the state's wildflowers. As a result, the building is full of symbols with special meanings, like the praying hand sculptures on top of the tower and 7 pointed stars throughout the church that represent the 7 virtues. The Sacred Heart was a Catholic mission and monastery that offered religious worship, education, and farming training to children and settlers in Indian Territory. It later became the first centre of Catholicism and the oldest school in the state. One night, a massive fire broke out that burned so bright, people 40 miles away could see the orange glow in the sky. It destroyed everything in just hours, and ironically, rain arrived right after it was too late to save anything. Only 3 original buildings survived: the bakery, an old log cabin, and the cemeteries where monks and students are buried. Alabaster Caverns is the largest natural gypsum cave in the area, and it's the only one in the country with guided walking tours. It also contains super rare black alabaster, found in only 3 places on Earth, and is home to thousands of bats from various species that hibernate here every winter. No matter if it's a hot summer or cold winter outside, the cave always stays the same cool temperature inside year-round. While visitors explore the caves, western kingbirds sit on fence posts and swoop down to catch prey flying over the plains. Fearless by nature, they attack and chase away much larger birds like hawks, eagles, and ravens. Surprisingly, they eat lots of bees and wasps, but the stings don't seem to bother them. They also have a hidden red patch on top of their head that usually stays covered, but when they get really angry, it pops up like a secret warning flag. As smart as they come, sometimes they build nests in the same tree as the hawks they usually attack, possibly because having a dangerous neighbour keeps other predators away. Fort Washita was built to protect the Chickasaw and Choctaw people after they moved to the area, where other tribes tried to keep them away from their hunting lands. It was much fancier than most frontier military posts. It had a bowling alley, a bar, a library, and even its own newspaper. When the Civil War broke out, Union soldiers left the fort and Confederate troops took over the very next day without any fighting. The fort has mysteriously burned down twice, once right after the Civil War ended, and again recently when the restored barracks caught fire under suspicious circumstances. After all that, restoration took place as a public and cultural initiative to preserve the state's history. Then a family moved in with 32 dogs, but when all the dogs vanished night after night, they eventually moved out. A cemetery on the property contains around 200 Confederate soldiers, but most graves have no markers, so nobody knows who they were. When Route 66 first opened, it was advertised as an all-weather highway, even though most of it wasn't even paved yet. A businessman from Oklahoma helped create this highway. He led the team that planned it, made sure it passed through his state, and even chose the number 66 himself. Near the border, there's a glowing ball of light called the spook light that floats and moves around at night, and even experts couldn't figure out what causes it. Between two towns, drivers say they sometimes pick up an old man in a trench coat who suddenly disappears, only to be seen walking on the road miles ahead. There are over 2,000 ghost towns in the state, most of which disappeared after new highways were built and travellers stopped passing through. The nickname Mother Road didn't come from tourism marketing. It came from John Steinbeck's book about families escaping the Dust Bowl, a time when huge dust storms destroyed farms and forced thousands to leave their homes in search of a better life. When Route 66 first opened, it was advertised as an all-weather highway, even though most of it wasn't even paved yet. Foss started when settlers moved to Turkey Creek Valley after the government opened up farmland that had belonged to the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. When the railroad arrived, they built a town that quickly became a busy hub. businesses like cotton gins, banks and shops opened to help ship crops to larger cities. During World War II, townspeople even donated their church bell to be melted down for ammunition. But the town's fortune didn't last. It was hit by 3 major fires that destroyed entire blocks and eventually ended its recovery. Now only a steel jail cell remains, so small that 4 prisoners once had to stand inside, along with a few sidewalks and foundations where hundreds of people once lived and worked. The Heavener runestone is a large rock with 8 mysterious marks that some believe could be ancient Viking writing, though no one knows for sure who made them. Originally called Indian Rock, it was believed the marks were made by Native Americans before other theories emerged. Nearby caves have markings and artifacts that could shed light on the culture and history behind the park. The park is also home to wildlife like owls, hawks, wildcats, and rare woodpeckers, so visitors might spot some interesting creatures as they explore. Each year, a Viking festival is held to celebrate the mystery of the stone, with fun events that keep the story alive. Oklahoma City began when thousands of people rushed to claim open land in a single day, an event that transformed empty fields into a city almost overnight. It grew from a railway stop to a centre for cattle trade, with stockyards that still host rodeos and uphold cowboy traditions. The city once had over 1,000 oil wells, some even near government buildings, which turned it into a place where oil ruled everything. What was once a small creek became a river that now hosts big water sports and festivals. Later, it became the first in the world to install parking meters on streets. There's a famous story that someone snuck the state seal from a rival town in the dead of night to ensure that it stayed as the capital. One of its iconic landmarks, the State Capitol building, continues to stand with oil wells still on its property. It is the only state house built right on top of active oil reserves, with crude continuing to flow beneath its grounds. The dome, originally planned for the building, wasn't added until many years later, which gave the Capitol a unique look. Atop it sits a large bronze statue called the Guardian, with a long staff reaching even higher into the sky. Designed in the grand and balanced Beaux-Arts style, it features tall columns, intricate decorations, and a strong, symmetrical shape that exudes authority and impressiveness. The building also survived an earthquake decades ago, and some of the cracks it caused are still visible today. Inside and outside the capital, murals and sculptures celebrate the state's oil history and culture. Nearby Lake Hefner, a man-made lake, offers a lively contrast to the more serious vibe of the government offices. Created mainly to supply water, it has become a hotspot for sailing, due to its smooth water and steady winds. The lake was carved out in a spot that wasn't originally planned after a dairy business blocked the intended location, leaving it in the wrong place. It is famous for its unique crew of goats, sheep, and a donkey hired to mow the grass on steep slopes, taking the place of machines and aiding in natural seed spreading as they walk. Legend says the lake has a mysterious vibe because of the lost settlements underwater, and some locals whisper about strange sightings at dusk. This makes Lake Hefner a perfect spot for stories about common loons gliding over peaceful waters. What makes these loons special is their loud, spooky calls and the fact that they spend most of their time underwater. They have some strange habits like peering underwater to watch for fish or dangers, and young chicks can ride on their parents' backs to stay safe and warm. When it's time to mate, they work together to build nests close to water, take turns sitting on eggs, and later teach their babies to swim and hunt fish. Loons fly long distances twice a year, leaving the lake area for the winter to find food and returning in warmer months to start families. People and boats can scare these birds so much that they abandon their eggs or leave their nests, making human activity one of their biggest threats. It is Oklahoma, a land of hidden wonders and remarkable architectural marvels. Now, if you don't want to miss the most unreal wonders of Colorado, check out this video.